This might be my last recording before I hit 100,000 subscribers, which is awesome. You never know, but what I do know is that what's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla King of the Monsters discussion video. Why so many King of the Monsters discussion videos? Cause I want to, cause I love that movie and cause I want to. And because, as I've been saying, the more I can shill Rodan, the more people shill Rodan, maybe he'll come back, and oh my god, why would we not want that? The dude's awesome. So yeah, today we're going to be following up on my Rodan discussion from a little bit ago where I discussed, is Rodan in King of the Monsters immortal? Well, let's continue that discussion based on some of the comments I got on that video. So when I posted that video talking about is Rodan in King of the Monsters immortal, you know, I discussed all sorts of stuff like Rodan survives way too much, whether it be the oxygen destroyer, whether it be Godzilla's atomic pulse, whether it be Ghidorah's gravity beams or whatever. Rodan in the MonsterVerse has a level of durability that no other Titan is seen displayed with other than perhaps Godzilla. Based on that, I got a lot of comments of people being like, there's one thing that is more impressive than anything else, and it's the least impressive thing he does, and that's the fact that Rodan just lives in a volcano. Rodan sleeps in a volcano, and I think a lot of people ignore the implication of that. Rodan also, for the record, survived under the ocean, getting blasted into the ocean, and then, like, did he not drown? How long was he down there in the water? The oxygen destroyer went off on him, sucked the oxygen out of the room, and Rodan popped back up like he didn't even notice. So I don't think Rodan's getting fire extinguished with the ocean either. The dude's totally fine. But Rodan can survive in all sorts of climates, whether it be way up in the sky, way in the underbellies of the earth, soaking in the lava, or in the sea, or wherever else. And I think that's really cool. So today, just because I want to keep hyping up Rodan for fun, I just thought it would be fun. And you guys said you wanted more silly discussions like the Rodan immortality theory, so let's do some more. Let's talk about how I think the other monsters would fare in Rodan's position. First of all, jumping way back, Rodan from 1956, and I do think that this is really important, also survived under a volcano, although that Rodan was susceptible to it and died to it at the end of that movie. Both Rodans died to the volcano at the end of that movie. So MonsterVerse Rodan, I think, is a little stronger than that Rodan, although it's important to note, the original Rodan from 1956 was supposed to be portrayed as stronger than Godzilla, if not the same strength as him. That's kind of the intention, you know, like Godzilla is an atomic bomb come to life, and he's powerful because of how much damage he can do, but guess who can do more damage quicker? Rodan, the one who can fly over a city and cause the same destruction as Godzilla in a matter of seconds. Well, I think the original Showa Godzilla would have survived the volcano where Rodan didn't. In terms of sheer destructive capability, Rodan was supposed to be on the same level. And in fact, the next Rodan, the second generation Rodan, was the same strength as the second generation Godzilla. I think one thing that's very easy to forget in the way Rodan has been portrayed since then, this is something Rick the Squirrel talks about, but Rodan started out equal strength to Godzilla. They were equals. That was the whole point. Godzilla's the king of the monsters. Godzilla's the king of the sea and the king of the land. Well, guess what? Rodan's the king of the sky. Rodan was the Godzilla of the air. Rodan and Godzilla were evenly matched. Neither one could gain ground on the other one when they fought. Rodan and King Ghidorah could go toe to toe, evenly matched. I mean, actually, I don't think Rodan was evenly matched with Ghidorah, but Rodan was able to put up a really solid fight against King Ghidorah. A much more solid fight than Rodan was able to put up against Ghidorah in the MonsterVerse, although there is an enormous size difference between Ghidorahs at play there. Anyways, my point is that Rodan in his inception was supposed to be the same strength as Godzilla. So now we get into Rodan in King of the Monsters, and everybody remembers Rodan as being kind of a weakling because he loses to Ghidorah and then he loses to Mothra, but I don't think so. First of all, Rodan is able to temporarily gain the upper hand on King Ghidorah, and it's not even like an ambush. Ghidorah knows he's coming. Ghidorah can sense him and is coming right for Rodan. Rodan doesn't have the advantage on Ghidorah. He just simply comes at him, grabs him, and is able to gain the upper hand temporarily, despite being like 1/3 of the dude's size. Rodan in the MonsterVerse is way smaller compared to Ghidorah than the Showa Rodan, who was almost evenly sized with King Ghidorah, just a little smaller. I think that's an incredible feat. I don't think many Titans in the MonsterVerse could go toe-to-toe with King Ghidorah. Certainly not Mothra. I don't think most other Titans in the MonsterVerse are gonna survive that little head-to-head. Not only that, but Rodan does lose to Mothra, but only a little bit, right? He gets stabbed stabbed in right where his heart should be, and then later on they show the stab wound and it's a little higher than where Mothra actually stabbed him. I don't know why the stab wound teleports, but it does. But anyways, Rodan stabbed straight through the body and then falls down and is wounded for a bit, takes a minute, and then pops back up like nothing happened. If Mothra stabs any other Titan through the heart, they're dead. That's a kill shot for most other Titans. And Rodan defeated Mothra. He was stronger than her. That was her last resort against him. So again, Rodan's a lot stronger than people give him credit for. Now getting into Rodan's volcanic ability, it's way more powerful than most people give him credit for. You know, Rodan being able to survive in the core of a volcano, soaking in that lava all day long, that alone, that's why he's able to survive Ghidorah's gravity beam. You know, the heat of Ghidorah's gravity beam, it's not as strong as the volcano probably. As far as Godzilla's atomic pulse, again, this incinerated King Ghidorah. It vaporized him down to the atom. Rodan walks that off. He didn't even care. He didn't notice. It's because Rodan has such a high heat tolerance that a lot of the beam attacks in the MonsterVerse, like pretty much all of them except Shimo, Rodan walks it off. He doesn't notice. As far as sheer strength and combat ability, I also think Rodan has taken down most MonsterVerse Titans. I don't think he beats some. Like, I don't think Rodan wins against Kong, especially if Kong's got the axe. Uh-oh, Rodan. But on the whole, I think Rodan stands a good shot against most other MonsterVerse Titans. But even just setting aside the versus match, let's just go through what Titans do I think could survive the volcano alone. Because I think that says a lot about Rodan, and I know durability and strength are not the same thing. I know that just because somebody's invulnerable to one thing doesn't mean they're invulnerable to other things, and so, you know, when you power scale, it gets complicated, but this is just for funsies. Let's just have some fun, okay? Starting out, our boy the Frostvark, dude's toast. Dude's first of all an ice guy. Dude loves the cold. He's getting cooked. The Frostvark was taken out by explosives. The Frostvark is also so tiny, he gets just melted. The Ion Dragon, I think, is in a similar position. The Ion Dragon gets scorched up big time by Godzilla's atomic breath. I think he gets vaporized by the lava. Rest in peace, Ion Dragon. Mothra, the queen of the monsters. You're next up on the list. And by the way, I am trying to generally rank them from who I think dies fastest to who I think can survive the best in the lava. Mothra, you're the number 3. You're third up. You're gonna die so fast. Mothra gets burned by Rodan's wings simply being in Rodan's vicinity. His wings are so hot that she sets on fire in King of the Monsters. It cooks her wings up, burns her up, and then obviously she's exploded by Ghidorah's gravity beams. So rest in peace, Mothra is a straight up goner. Mokele Membe is a character from the novelization. It's hard to say, but I do think Mokele Membe gets cooked. Kika is a water titan. That's already kind of a knock against Kika. Big squid equals big calamari. I think Kika is out of here. Same with Tiamat. Tiamat gets cooked by Godzilla's atomic breath and scattered into pieces. Tiamat, another water titan. I don't think Tiamat's doing well when you throw her in lava. Sorry, Tiamat. The great apes we see literally die on screen as Skar King kicks one of them into the lava and it burns to death in Godzilla Kong the New Empire. So that's a knock against the great apes right there, as we see they're instantly vulnerable to the lava. Uh-oh. The Kraken in the Skull Island anime? I don't know, man. He's such a weird looking freak. He's got so many weird looking pieces of him, but on the whole, the dude's kind of furry. He's also a squid underwater monster. I don't think he's doing very well on land. There's a reason that the Kraken doesn't come out of the water. You know, he stays in the water, and it's because he needs it to survive. I think the Kraken is not fireproof. I think he gets cooked. I think he's dead. The Kraken also can get beat up, like punches can cut him open. And if a punch cuts him open, like what's the lava gonna do to him? It's gonna burn through his skin. Quetzalcoatl, I don't know. This one's a kind of an interesting one because it's almost like a Rodan looking creature. We have very little to go off for Quetzalcoatl in the MonsterVerse, but here's what I'll say is giant bird. Hey, last time I checked, the giant condor didn't do very well against the atomic breath. Goodbye, fella. Scylla, rest in peace, Scylla, and Charybdis for that matter. Obviously not resistant to the atomic breath. Obviously doesn't do well in high temperatures for very long. Not looking great. Also, spiders and crabs aren't very well known to survive fire. So, goodbye, Scylla. Behemoth is where things get a little interesting. Behemoth is fireproof in the Godzilla King of the Monsters novelization, but only his fur. The fire rolls off of his fur. It's unknown if he could survive in the lava, but I don't think it looks great. I don't think it looks great for Behemoth. I'm putting Kong above the Great Apes and Behemoth for a couple reasons. Number one, Kong has survived the atomic breath. Now, granted, it was a hit to the back. It wasn't like a direct long-term blast, but Kong survives the atomic breath pretty well. It does burn him a little badly, but I think that is enough to say Kong's got a little more resistance than your average Great Ape. Also, he is fireproof against napalm. Common misconception about Kong Skull Island is that Kong gets knocked out by the napalm because the fire burns him, and yes, while the fire is raging through his fur, However, Kong in the MonsterVerse is confirmed to be fireproof, just like Behemoth. It's actually the fact that the napalm is sucking the oxygen out from around him. Kong collapses under that alone. It's because he gets deprived of his oxygen. Either way, a long way to say Kong's getting cooked in a matter of seconds. I don't think he lasts much longer than your average great ape. Same goes for Skar King and whatever weird hybrid species he is. He survives the hyperatomic breath, and he actually does better than pretty much any other titan you'd expect would handle that hyperatomic breath, but he is still an ape species. It's not looking great for him. He still does get burnt by the atomic breath. Goodbye, Skar King. Camazotz is a little confusing. You know, I don't have a ton to go off of here. Camazotz is obviously flesh and blood. There's holes in Camazotz's wings. I think Camazotz lacks durability enough to say Camazotz is going to get cooked as well. This is where we get into the upper leagues here, and this is where I think things get really interesting. Next up is Shimo, who I felt very conflicted about putting in this spot. Shimo was held at bay by a volcano for centuries. I think if Shimo could survive a volcano, that wouldn't have worked. She wouldn't be stuck behind one for centuries. She is an ice creature. Ice does not survive lava. I'm sorry to tell you. She couldn't overcome the volcano in Hollow Earth. She's not going to overcome this. The only reason I kind of felt conflicted is like, Shimo does survive the hyperatomic breath very well. She does kind of walk it off, and it does cook through her skin, but I think Shimo has a higher resistance than most titans, and I do think she would survive in that lava for quite some time. These next ones I felt very conflicted about. Shimo I could see very much going down a couple, and these ones being up above Shimo. The MUTOs. What we know is that the MUTOs can survive the atomic breath fairly well. It does knock them out, but it acts more like a punch against a MUTO. However, the MUTOs have the EMP ability, which supposedly, depending on if you're gonna play with non-canon material, that does weaken Godzilla's atomic breath. But I'm saying that the MUTOs are probably gonna get cooked. I just think it might take a little bit of time. And same goes for MUTO Prime, who is more durable than your normal MUTO, will likely get killed by the lava for the same reasons as the MUTO, but she is pretty powerful, so who knows? Controversially, maybe, I'm putting King Ghidorah up next. I think King Ghidorah can just hang out in the lava just fine. It's only the fact that Ghidorah is cooked by the atomic pulse, which probably burns hotter than lava, but Ghidorah gets vaporized by the atomic breath, which shows there is a level of heat that will cook Ghidorah alive. You know, atomic bombs are hotter than volcanoes, so who knows what that heat temperature resistance is for Ghidorah, but no, not looking great for you, Ghidorah. Next up is Methuselah, who could be melted into lava very easily. I could see Methuselah not surviving in the lava. Maybe Ghidorah survives the lava better than Methuselah, but Methuselah's a living mountain made of rock, and the other titan made of rock is Rodan, and Rodan just chills in the volcano. So I'm thinking Methuselah might be okay. Methuselah, I'm gonna give you this one. Next up, Godzilla. Godzilla, the king of the monsters. As far as the Toho mythology is concerned, dude's fine with lava, swims through it in Godzilla vs. Biollante, swims through it in Godzilla vs. Mothra in the Heisei series. Godzilla's pretty fine with atomic bombs. He's pretty fine with high temperatures. I don't think that this is the biggest deal for Godzilla, and same with the MonsterVerse. In fact, in Godzilla Dominion, the comic book, Godzilla's seen swimming around through the hottest parts of the earth already, maybe even through lava itself. I think Godzilla's doing just fine. He can also go burning mode and survive that, although actually technically Godzilla shouldn't have survived burning mode, but he survived his energized state, which was also a boiling state. Godzilla's fine, and because of that the Godzilla species is fine, so good for you, Dagon. You get a pass as well. Next and finally, it's obviously Rodan, the dude who I love the most. Rodan, the king of the skies. Rodan eats that shit. It makes him stronger. You know how lightning makes King Kong stronger in 1962? That's Rodan with the lava, baby. Rodan's just the lava lord, and so I stan Rodan. As far as I'm concerned, you're the immortal titan, and you're also the coolest and strongest, as much as I need to keep saying that to get you in another movie, and then I'll go back to being Team Kong. But come on, Rodan, represent. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear your list. What titans do you think could survive the lava? And where do you think Rodan ranks in terms of durability? I think if Rodan gets his head stomped on by Godzilla, I think it's gonna hurt Godzilla's foot. I think it'll knock Rodan out. I don't think it's cracking his skull though. I think Rodan is just like this weirdly immortal creature, and I think it's awesome. So that's my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. Again, probably thank you for 100,000 subscribers, as I'm like 1 subscriber away at the time of recording this, which is very cool. But other than that, thank you guys all for watching. I'm gonna give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. It's through the support of the patrons on Patreon that I'm able to continue to make videos like this for you in the first place, and by supporting the Patreon you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. If that's not your thing, please consider joining as a channel member, as you can get access to exclusive perks that way. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you all next time for the next one. D-Man out.